Okay, so next day, I'm going to bring the camera over here for just a second. Everything looks good. Actually, before I left the shop last night, the glue was actually already starting to foam up out of the joints. I said, a little bit of moisture, in those joints really helped with kind of getting that reaction. So I'm going to bring the camera over here real quick. I haven't popped any of the clamps off yet. I haven't really started to scrape much, but you can see there that that glue is foamed up out of the spots where I really kind of filled that in. You can see across that bench top, the bottom of the bench top. That's the real long seam that gave me some problems with how wide it was clamped open. Well, with how wide it was opened up. So we're going to start by taking the C clamps off over here. Alright, so I know there's a couple smaller cracks on this side I do need to put some glue in before we flip this. I also know that I'm going to have to put a little bit of glue on the physical top side of this. So, just to start with, I have a chisel and I actually have a hatchet for a wider blade. I'm going to take that chisel, it's actually working just fine. Bevel down, that way I don't really dig too much in. Just going to work my way across, get as much of this glue that foamed up out of here as I can. Alright, so when I released the clamps, started scraping that, my original suspicion was right, and this big crack, it was just too much to try to clamp out and rely on that glue to hold. It left back loose. This one was still a hair wide, so what I did was I took a chisel here and just tapped it in the side, and it actually was enough to provide some leverage to open that up. So what I have now is 3 pieces of this top. Most of the other joints look fairly clean, fairly tight. There wasn't a ton of gap to clamp out of them. But what I'm going to have to do now is actually I'm going to take each of these sections. This back section I'm just going to have to clean up with chisels, try to get it smoothed out as much as possible. Those threaded rods that go the whole way through, like I said, they're blocked off with these two, so they won't actually come out. I'm just going to have to clean up any excess glue off this back piece. This narrow thin strip in the center and this part up here I can actually pull off, get a hand plane, dress that flat. So turns out this video is going to be a 2-part one apparently, instead of the real simple re-glue up like I thought it was going to be. So bear with us and we'll get this underway. Alright, so I have a set of hand screws making kind of an improvised clamp slash vise to hold up. The first part I'm actually going to plane here with the hand planer. Now, I'm not so much worried about if this is level or not. I'm actually using my level as a straight edge. And yeah, there's a pretty good belly right in the center. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use my number 7 joiner plane. I'm going to get rid of all this excess glue from what I put on last night and any from when this was glued up at the factory. Who knows how long ago that was. But I'm just going to start at one side. And initially, I have this blade set fairly close. Feels like it might have jammed up just a little with some of this Gorilla Glue getting underneath my level cap here. Set that blade back in a little bit. I do kind of have to restart a little bit just to make sure that everything's still set correctly. I don't want to take off too much. I'm actually going to move this back towards myself just a little bit. It's kind of awkward to try to do what I need to do with it so far out of the way. Right now I'm just trying to kind of focus on, since I got the glue off here, I'm trying to work both ends. I'm going to go down the other end in a second and try to just reduce the high spots, which they're at each end. Seems to me that this is the board that's actually warped the worst, which, you know, if it's a narrower board. This was the one that was kind of loose. Everything wasn't really fitting together all that great. It would make sense that this is what would warp as opposed to these bigger panels here. So looks like I can actually clamp that together without too much problem. What I might try to do, just try to remove all the glue I can with my hand plane, and then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this back together basically piece by piece. I'll glue this narrow board onto the piece I pulled off the panel, and then what I'll do is I'll actually check to see how that fits up tight against this bottom part, and do any trimming I need to do on this piece to kind of make it fit what's already basically secured to these metal rods that really won't come out. Basically custom fit it, then we'll run that glue one last time. I think that should actually do it. So we'll cross our fingers and stay tuned for the next video and we see if my idea actually works.